What if I told you that 90% of your life problems aren't because of bad luck or bad circumstances or even bad genes? 90% of your life problems are because you're ignoring these 11 life lessons. Let me tell you a story. Actually, I'll tell you a couple of stories. The first story is about regret. The regrets that I had when I realized I landed into retirement in a super, super unhealthy situation. I was drinking a lot. I was entertaining clients. That's how I always justified that. I was eating unhealthy. I had 6 kids and 3 of them were graduating from college and high school, and I was always on the run. That's how I justified that. I had lost connections with many friends, but I was a busy working mom, and by the way, that's how I justified that. But I really wasn't paying attention to what was going to make me successful for the next 20 or 30 years. So I was in a yoga class one day, and this kind of dovetails into story number 2, where I had a massive realization about a couple of things. I'm in a hot yoga class for 90 minutes, and you know what that's like. It's you versus your mat. There's no competition with anybody else. It's you versus your mat. And it is usually, for me, an absolutely surreal experience. I got into one of those poses where my emotions started getting the best of me. And I started getting very emotional in this class I was working through. It's 112 degrees, I'm sweating, I'm crying, and I'm realizing that outside of not paying attention to and regretting not paying attention to my physical well-being, I had the realization at that moment I also didn't pay attention to my emotional well-being, and it just hit me. Leads into kind of the third part of the story, and that's the transformation. I started focusing on small daily practices, small little things that I could control throughout the day, making incremental changes in what I ate, what I drank, how I moved my body, who I spent my time with, to create a transformative discovery phase of my life. Not even going to call it retirement anymore. It's just a discovery phase. Now, what happens? And I told you how I justified a few things, but what happens to the vast majority of people? You know, research says that people start to ignore your vitality signs, right? You mistake aging for this inevitable decline and you just fall into it. I'm getting older, I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm getting older, I'm not going to be able to wear that. I'm getting older, I'm not going to be able to feel that good. So we kind of fall into this common trap where we just ignore the vitality signals that are coming our way. And we fall into the trap of what social media and marketing and advertising firms want to tell us about aging. The second big trap that I find that people fall into, and I've had a lot of conversations with women about this, is this theory that Mark and I have created on retirement drift. Losing your momentum without even noticing. You know, settling for a survival mode as opposed to a growth mode without making that conscious decision. You know, believing this is just what retirement looks like. And it looks like watching TV during the day, drinking with my girlfriends or neighbors at night and rinse and repeat, not really stretching myself, not really contributing. That is a false bravado. Retirement drift is a real thing, and you have to be able to catch yourself. I'd like you to think of a new perspective, one that you declare that vitality is non-negotiable, that health is a gateway to everything else. It is your number one thing. If you do that well, if you nail your health and wellness, everything else will fall into place. That moving your body is essential every day. These are little changes in perspective that you can make as you learn the lessons that are going to help you propel yourself into this phase of life. So let's talk about the 11 takeaways. And remember, I said 90% of your problems is because you're not focusing on these 11 things. So let's get to the 11. The first thing is move your body every day, every single day. If it's pouring rain outside, if it's thunder and lightning, if you're in the middle of a hurricane, you can still move your body. Jumping jacks, body push-ups, yoga, You know, you get an app on your phone, move your body. I played golf the other week with an 89-year-old woman who beat me, by the way, by a ton of strokes. And I asked her what the secret was, and I wasn't sure what she was going to say. And what she said was, I move my body every day, and on days I don't feel like it, I move it double. And I thought about that for a long time, and I thought, what a great theory. So move your body every day.